we've got some serious problems in football. And this weekend is the big game, and it's like, and in the meantime, we've got another football player. And I'm sorry, I just don't follow sports, so I can't just throw out names like I could with politics. But another football player, a couple of days ago, I saw the story over in Huffington Post, I think it was, or maybe it was the New York Times, is suffering from this, destructive brain deterioration that's the result of repeated concussions, repeated head injuries. And so, the question, should we just say enough already? We're not going to do football anymore. It's just like the price is too high. Or are we going to say, is there a better way to do football? I mean, for example, with boxing, here's the kind of evolution. Boxing started out as basically fistfights. And people were, dying and being disfigured, and their hands were getting busted up. And so they started using boxing gloves, making it a little less deadly, a little just less dangerous. Now, clearly this was before people knew about traumatic brain injury, but and we know, and actually, when my dad was in high school, there were boxing teams and boxing clubs at a lot of high schools around the country. You don't see any of that anymore, to the best of my knowledge. I don't, maybe wrestling, but I don't think any school is teaching boxing anymore. So what about football? I have two possible solutions for this. One is, let's just say we're no longer going to teach football or play football in its current form in public schools. We're not going to finance it. We're not going to support it. We're not going to pay for it because it leads to injuries. One of my own kids played football in high school and ended up with a broken collarbone and a chipped bone in his arm. And that was the point at which Louise and I said enough. And, we have no idea if he's ever had traumatic brain injury. So, number one, could we do that? Can we stop promoting it in our schools? Yes, I know it makes money. Yes, I know team spirit and all that. Let's move to a sport that's less likely to produce these kind of injuries. Basketball doesn't produce these kind of injuries. Maybe soccer, rugby. I don't, it's like, so that's one possibility. Another possibility that occurred to me is let's do away with helmets. Now, at first, that sounds like totally counterintuitive, but football is one of those sports that's really, really, really tightly regulated. I mean, the way that you're throwing the ball, if your arm is in the wrong position as you're throwing the ball, it's a foul. It's bad. If you touch somebody in the wrong place or at the wrong time, if you're standing or blocking, I mean, there's all these subtle things that are like really small motions, right? Just 2 inches makes the difference between a successful play and a foul. Why not simply say we're going to eliminate the helmets and no more touching a person's head? It just doesn't happen anymore. The rest of football, fine. You can beat each other up. You can run into each other and, catch balls and things, but no more head banging. Got to use your shoulders. That's what those pads are there for. Or am I just being totally nuts? I'm probably just being totally nuts here. And I'm guessing that there's a lot of people who would love to call up and offer an opinion on this, but every single line is full. So I'm going to start taking phone calls here, and as we start clearing out the lines, if you want to talk about what should we do about the fact that we have this sport, which is a surrogate for war in the United States. Let's be honest. This is how men get testosterone out of their systems, is watching sports, and some and women like it too, I guess. Can we make our sports a little less brutal? Or, I mean, the flip side is people are saying, hey, these professional athletes, they're paid millions. They know exactly what they're in for. They are willing to take short-term big money in exchange for long-term diminished quality of life. And there are many people who would make that choice. I don't have a problem with that, right? If a professional athlete, if an adult wants to make those decisions, cool. The problem I have is all the young people who think that if they play football, they can become rich and famous. And they're out there damaging their own brains, and they're not going to make it, the vast majority of them. It's going to be 100th or 1,000th of 1%, as you well know. And people keep saying, oh, well, this is the one way out of the ghetto. This is the one way out of poverty, whether it's poor kids in West Virginia or poor kids and, white kids in West Virginia or poor black kids in downtown Baltimore. This is the way out. I have a better way out. stop our stupid trade policies, bring back our factories, and offer people jobs. All right, then you don't need to get out of the ghetto. The ghetto ceases to exist because people have jobs and they can start having a normal standard of living. Make the government the employer of last resort. Create a reasonable minimum wage. I mean, there's all kinds of alternatives. The argument that we have to allow our kids to create brain damage for themselves in the hopes that someday they'll be able to get an athletic scholarship so that they can be, successful adults is crazy. That's lottery thinking. So anyhow, that's my take on that.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.